The road to the Final Four ends in San Antonio. What's up, what's up, what's up? I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. We're on the way to the Final Four. It ends in San Antonio, guys. Road to the Final Four. Go Cougs.
Economic level of an entire nation.
Y'all coming in, rocking with me, tapping in,
I don't think
riding with me here. Just come ride with your boy.
I think
Stock
you're
Sniper.
dreaming the dream that Martin Luther King left.
If you're wondering what I'm listening to,
no.
I'm listening to the great ambassador
and dedication before we see
put forth the new business plan for America.
Ambassador Young, thank you for that. With all these
great ambassador Andrew Young,
because we got so many.
Martin Luther King's right-hand man.
We got Bernice King. We're about to go to now.
In a virtual town hall.
The night before. Thank you for your remarks.
Moving forward.
Session just with you, by the way. And
what is the new business plan? This will be the new business plan for America.
Your legacy, doing a great job.
So I'm just listening to it
accounts with him
to see what their plans are.
Hope savings accounts, so thank him as well. Ambassador Young, just 1 second on this. The night before the assassination is the only time I saw him. I'm not even mistaken. He's at Mason Temple.
He's talking about the assassination of Martin Luther King right now.
He wasn't supposed to speak. Well, he was supposed to speak, but he was tired.
Ambassador Andrew Young
is
Martin Luther King's
Jesse Jackson,
right-hand man.
Who I think is watching. Reverend Jackson went over to Mason Temple to try to speak on his behalf. The crowd wasn't having it. It was raining. They invited Ambassador on the company. He caught the opportunity to come at the last minute. You guys called him. I think Anthony called him.
Appreciate y'all for coming in, hitting that like button.
After a speech, he gave that speech and literally collapsed in the arms of you and the aides. It was almost like he realized what was coming and was at peace with it very quickly. Is that accurate or am I off base?
No, that's accurate because
it is raining, so
his third time back in Memphis.
We'll be going through the rain headed to San Antonio. 80% chance of rain. But it's all good. I'm a retired truck driver. So it's all good. I've drove through worse 'in my 20 years of truck driving. We're headed through Katy right now. And we are early on this road trip to the Final Four. Going to support the University of Houston and see the 4 #1 seeds play in this game. We got all 4 #1 seeds. Of course, we know University of Houston plays Duke, and then we got Florida versus Auburn. All 4 #1 seeds. So it's gonna be a great weekend. Hopefully my Cougars win, but if not, I like Duke, I like Florida, and I kind of like Auburn. So it's gonna be all good. Appreciate y'all for tapping in and rocking with me. I am your host, the one and only Stock Sniper, on the road to the Final Four. We headed to the Final Four, guys. That's where we headed. Listening to this, a new business plan for America. That's what I'm listening to, guys.
I am honored to be co-convening this with you and Mayor Young and my Uncle Andy, Ambassador Andrew.
So how y'all doing out there?
Obviously the day, as always, is a very emotional day.
How y'all doing? YouTube?
Yes, the last born child of
Y'all watching the games tonight?
King Jr.
Let me know, you watching the games?
But I'm grateful.
Are you a Florida fan? Are you an Auburn fan? Are you a U of H fan? Are you a Duke fan? Me, I'm a U of H
We
fan.
have difficult days ahead. But I'm also hopeful
I'm a U of H fan.
because of what we're doing today. And
My sister graduated at U of A. My sister graduated, you know, at the University of Houston, and I got a lot of friends that play football at that great University of Houston over there in 3rd Ward, H-Town in the building.
remember what happened. We
So-
also don't just focus on the man.
Go Cougs. We hope that
focus on the mission.
Houston can beat
John, thank you for galvanizing us.
Duke tonight. You know, Duke was the ones, they knocked us out last year in the Sweet 16. So we meet them again in the Final Four to get a good chance of
and so I'm joining you today.
a good chance of knocking them out.
Atlanta, which is the official literary to the life, work, and legacy of my
Next stop,
we are
Final Four, San Antonio.
to help people.
The road stops in San Antonio.
Very difficult situations.
So we here.
Through the philosophy and methodology of nonviolence.
Shout out to San Antonio.
Which is the
Shout out to everybody that's from San Antonio.
My parents will be laying a wreath later on at 3:30 Eastern this afternoon. So the work of justice that my father began, as we have said, is unfinished, and the dream that he
A little bit of traffic, not much.
to move forward.
Pretty good so far.
Many of you know that my father spent his life seeking to
I think we finally passed up the rain.
poverty, racism, and
So we ready to rock and roll on this road trip. It's cloudy as you can see,
This work around racial justice,
but leaving Houston,
civil rights movement,
I think we're getting away from the rain right now.
commitment to
So let's go and get up out of here as we pull up on Katy.
Recognize that he was just as fierce in his fight for economic justice and empowerment. And he believed that true freedom required not only equality under the law, but access to fair wages, jobs, and opportunities that could give people control over their financial destiny. We know that 50 years ago, today my father was assassinated in Memphis, where he had come to stand alongside his and he mentioned black sanitation workers who courageously declared, "I am a man."
Also, April 4th was, I didn't know that, I just found that out. April 4th was the 50th anniversary, I ain't gonna even say anniversary, but April 4th was 50 years that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. April 4th, 50 years ago.
That we must develop massive action programs to bring about economic reforms that will sustain equality. That's why the work that we're talking about today is so critical and important. We also understood that economic justice meant more than jobs, it meant true empowerment. As he wrote in Where Do We Go From Here, the book that was published shortly before he was assassinated, he warned us that the curse of poverty is not just that people lack money, but that they lack the capacity to control their destiny. That truth remains urgent today as inequality persists.
That was a great point she said.
Opportunity, many based on race, gender,
That's what I talk about all the time. It ain't that people lack money, it's that lack the financial capacity to make the proper financial decisions.
It's concentrated in the hands of a few, while many struggle to survive. And that the struggle for equality cannot be complete until every person, black, white, brown, has the means to care for their families and participate in the fullness of society. In their final speech on April 3rd, 1968, the night before he was taken from us so early, he spoke of going up to the mountaintop and looking over and seeing that promised land. That promised land for him was not simply about racial justice, it was about economic justice. A future where the inseparable twins of racism and poverty were overcome and where all people shared in the wealth of the earth. He knew that a movement for justice had to go beyond integration, it had to demand equity. And so 57 years ago, he was deep in the work of developing a business plan for Black America.
Appreciate y'all for hitting that like button.
Legal rights, but about creating pathways for sustainable economic independence and interdependence. He was crafting an economic infrastructure for Black communities, building a strategy for empowerment, economic self-determination, and financial justice. He knew that racial equality meant little if Black communities lacked access to economic opportunity, if systemic barriers kept them
Appreciate you hitting the like button.
shaping their own future. When he and members of SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, launched Operation Breadbasket in 1962, it was about an inclusive economy. He saw the economic exclusion of Black Americans and poor communities as a direct contradiction of the ideals of justice. And through Operation Breadbasket, he challenged corporations to include Black workers in their employment ranks, not just through token hiring, but through real training, skill development, and investment in Black businesses and communities. He understood that to dismantle systemic inequality, Black workers had to be positioned in industries that could transform communities economically. He declared the dignity of the individual will flourish when the decisions concerning his life are in his own hands. When he and the SCLC launched the Poor People's Campaign, which Operation Hope is a part of continuing that work, and also Reverend William Barber, it was an extension of this economic plan. It was designed to bring national attention to the urgent need for economic structuring, calling for better wages, more jobs, and policies that would ensure long-term financial security for poor communities across racial lines. He knew that poverty was not a matter of individual failure, but a structural issue. As he put it, it's cruel just to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Through the Poor People's Campaign, they sought to eradicate poverty as a moral crisis, a blight on a nation capable of more. And when he stood in Memphis, sanitation workers, he was doing more than supporting a local strike. He was emphasizing a national economic movement. Those men carried the burdens of your city, Marion. They were denied fair wages and benefits, but they represented millions of Black workers across America facing economic justice. My father's support of their cause was not just about one workplace. It was about building a framework for fair wages, labor rights, and business inclusion that could uplift generations. And on the night before he was assassinated, he made a direct appeal, telling those gathered in Memphis to support Black banks and insurance companies. And here's the most important part. He said, stick together. He said, if something happens to me, don't stop here in Memphis. He was urging us, he was urging America not to abandon the quest for an inclusive economy. And yes, something happened in Memphis 50 years ago today, April 4th, 1968. And tragically, there is unfinished business we must attend to. Today, as we shape the future of economic inclusion, we must look to those industries that will define tomorrow. We'll be talking about that today: artificial intelligence, automation. The emerging technologies are transforming the workforce. Just as my father fought for Black workers to be trained for new jobs, in his time, we must demand that marginalized communities, especially Black and brown communities, are given training and access to jobs in AI and future-focused industry. My mother, Coretta Scott King, carried that vision forward, reminding us the struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. We earn it and win it in every generation. This generation's struggle must include ensuring that Black and underserved communities are positioned to thrive in the future economy. So we join together today to carry forward my father's economic business plan, to complete the work he began. Let's ensure that economic justice is not just a dream deferred, but a reality fulfilled. Let us build a future of us in the Black community, an investment to control our destiny, not only our community, but national and global economy. I'm honored to be here. I'm glad we're together today to do just as he said. Don't stop in Memphis. We're in Memphis, but as we leave today, we will continue the quest to create an inclusive economy.
God bless you. Bless you, Denise. Thank you. And now you know why I think she's brilliant. That's my honorary sister, and she's amazing. And by the way, if you want to make a donation today, don't do it to Operation Hope. The mayor doesn't need it. Maybe he does, but do it to the King Center. Make a donation to the King Center if you want to make a donation just so she can continue this work. If you want to make a commitment to the work to do something on the business plans that dropped today, by the way, the new business plans that the framework, which I mostly wrote, so if you don't like them, you can blame it on me, and will be refined over time. But you can go to the website right now and download those sites. They're completely open source, and I hope, Dr. Bernice King, we've done you some pride. Thanks for continuing this legacy. Now that all the speakers, we have something very special coming to you right now. He's been waiting. And all of the speakers, the person who got to read a speech is Dr. Bernice King. That's it. and for every reason, you know, she was worth every moment of it. Everything else is going to be what I call a jump ball conversation. And here we go. Sam, thanks for waiting. I'm sure you understand why you had to wait. That was actually one of Dr. King's books as well. Speak Why We Can't Wait. Sam Altman is my friend. He is, you're gonna make this a little uncomfortable for you, Sam, but I think it's true. I think you're the Steve Jobs of this generation. I think you're a decent human being who cares. I love when I talk to you and I ask you about AI and you don't have all the answers. When we first started the artificial intelligence conversations at Clark Atlanta University with Dr. George French, who's one of our delegates today, along with the other HBCU presidents, you talked about the promise of AI, but you also said there might be problems with AI that you could not guard against or promise it was not the unintentional negative consequences. And that made me trust you even more. Our conversation in your office in San Francisco, which I'll share, but when you were very vulnerable, and we talked candidly about the problems and the opportunities. We co-chair the AI Ethics Council together. You supported our work with the AI LP3, which is out of Atlanta, with Dean Phillips, who's on now from Georgia State University Business School, where we're trying to create a pipeline of prosperity with young people up and through AI, not just being fired because of AI, but to create jobs and opportunities. Thanks for your support for that. You were the first donor on AI to Operation Hope for transparency. So we're turning AI into how we do business. You were smart enough to bring Sarah Fryer on as your CFO, who is my dear friend. So Sam, where do we go from Van Jones and said 99% of black folks don't know a thing about AI, and 99% of white folks don't know a thing about AI either. So we're all starting at the same place, but by 2030, the whole world's going to change, in my opinion. Where do we go from here, and how can we use it as a force for good?
Yeah, I do think we're in the middle of a legitimate technological revolution. This looks like it's a very big one. I think we have much further to go, but already it's something that people are using a lot in everyday life. Hundreds of millions of people using it. People are doing better work. They're learning faster. It's transforming how healthcare works. It's creating unbelievable new economic opportunity. And I am hopeful that this will be a real time for an inclusive reset in the world. It's such a big deal. It's such a big change that I think all of the everything is kind of up for grabs. And I think this is very much a deeply democratizing technology. And we can sort of figure out what it means to enable everyone in the world all at once.
167 miles.
People are using ChatGPT, but it can go much, much further.
You're the CEO of OpenAI, which is arguably the leader.
Got 167 miles left before we get to the final four. 167 miles to go. Let's rock.
In this space today, I have written this business plan for different groups: business plan for rural America, business plan for women, business plan for Latinos, Native Americans, a business plan for Black America. In the business plan for Black America that I wrote, and there's one for everybody, that just talked about business plan for America, but the one on Black America, I've estimated, with the help, by the way, of your technology, that there's about $1 trillion that's possible.
Got 165 miles to go. Road to the Final Four. Stops in San Antonio. Road to the Final Four. That's where I'm headed. I got 165 miles to go before I'm in San Antonio. Road to the Final Four. Go Cougs! We got the first two games are tonight. University of Houston Cougars versus Duke Blue Devils. Then we got Florida Gators versus Auburn Tigers. The winner out of those two games will play in the finals on Monday night. Last year, if you don't remember, Duke knocked out the University of Houston in the Sweet 16. So now U of H has a chance to redeem themselves in the Final Four. And it starts tonight to be exact, at 7:50 Central Time. Turning out to be a great day. It was raining. Now it's cloudy, and it feels good out here, guys. Appreciate you for rocking with me. Appreciate you for coming. You could be anywhere else, but you're here chilling with me. And I'm on my way to the Final Four. Yep. And I will be going live from the Final Four. Just like I went live from the Super Bowl. I will be going live from the Final Four. Only thing is, going live inside of those buildings, you know, the reception is bad. And YouTube, because they play music, YouTube would knock me out. I had to learn that, going live at the basketball games and football games. So we gonna make it all the way there. I'm hoping that U of H win, but if not, it's still gonna be a great weekend. Cause I like Duke, I like Florida, and I kinda like Auburn. So I like Duke, right? One of the greatest basketball programs in college basketball. So you gotta respect Duke. I like Duke. Florida, I mostly like them from football. They okay. Great university, by the way. All these universities are great universities. I'm gonna say that right now. All of them good with their education. Great schools. Auburn, I really don't too much like Auburn. I look at Auburn about like I look at Alabama with the football thing, right? So either way it go, I got what I wanted. I wanted all #1 seeds in the Final Four, and I got it. It just so happened 2 out of the 4 are the teams that I really like. But U of H, Houston Cougars, you know, my sister graduated there. I got homeboys that played on the football team at that school, right? Five Slammer Jammer, Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler. Let's go, U of H Cougs. Back in the Final Four, guys. I remember when I remember storytelling time, guys. I remember when U of H played, what was that team name? Let me get it. North Carolina State. Right, Jimmy Valvano. Back in the 80s, I was a little bitty boy. I never forget. Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler. Really, really good game. I think that's in the late 80s, if I can remember correctly. 84, 85, 86, maybe something like that. I know I was young, right? watching the Final Four tournament. Five Slammer Jammer. Last second, I'll never forget that day. Everybody was celebrating when we was watching the game. We thinking that U of H about to pull it out. Last 2 or 3 seconds of the game. Alley-oop. If I can remember correctly, it was the alley-oop. All I remember is that North Carolina and Jimmy Valvano, they made the last shot, the last second of the game to knock out U of H in that national championship game back in the mid-early 80s. I was a little bitty boy. I'll never forget it. So now, fast forward, right around, I would say, right at 40 years later, we back. Yes, Duke is a powerful team. Yes, Duke has the #1 player in the country. Yes, Duke has all this tradition. On paper, they look like U of H ain't got a chance. But guess what I'm telling you? You got to throw all that out of the window. We coming to prove a point. Go Cougs. We proving a point tonight at this Final Four. We bringing the championship back to H-Town. I said it. I said it. So let's rock and roll. Appreciate y'all for joining me, man. I hope y'all having a great weekend. May God bless you and your family. Now let's rock and roll on this road to the Final Four. The road stops in San Antonio, Texas. Let's go. Rain, sleet, or snow, we getting to the Final Four. Rain, sleet, or snow, we getting to this Final Four. We got 6 likes. Appreciate y'all for hitting the like button. If you loving the Final Four, hit the like button. If your team is playing in the Final Four, hit the like button. If you watching the Final Four game tonight, hit the like button. If you're a University of Houston Cougars fan, hit the like button. If you're an alumni of the University of Houston, hit the like button. Shout out to University of Texas. If you're an alumni of the University of Texas, hit the like button. The girls played a pretty good game last night. Shout out to University of Texas girls basketball program. They came up short last night against a great basketball program in South Carolina. So shout out to University of Texas girls basketball team for making it to the Final Four. Unfortunately, we came up short. But we'll be back. Why? Because we ain't going nowhere. That's why. We ain't going nowhere, guys. Shout out to University of Texas. Horns. All right, let's rock and roll. That's one thing about Texas. Texas is a big old state. Yeah, it's a big state. A whole lot of land. From here to New Mexico, take about 12 hours to get there. From here to Lubbock, takes about 10 hours. from here to the top of the Panhandle. It takes a lot. Takes about 12, 13 hours. Texas is big, bro. But once you get out of Texas, you good to go. Here come the rain again. I appreciate y'all for taking this road trip with me. The people that's in the comment section, that's in the chat. Appreciate you for taking this road trip with me. Cause just like on them walk down, guys, that's what make my time go by quick. I look up and I'll be in San Antonio. I got 150 miles to go, which is not long. So right now I'm listening to this business plan for America, which is actually Dr. Martin Luther King's business plan that he had, because he was about to shift from the movement of everybody's created equal to economic empowerment. He was about to switch the whole campaign that Dr. Martin Luther King was on. He was about to switch it to economic power and politics. That's what he was on, guys. That's what he was on. So I'm gonna go back and we're gonna listen to this business plan that they rolled out for America. This is my reaction video.
And increase wealth creation for Black America between now and 2053 if we embrace artificial intelligence. Now, there's some other buckets of activity which I'll get into. I won't waste our time on that here. But just the bucket of AI, if we do nothing, Black America will have a net worth of 0 by 2053. If we do nothing what we're doing right now. And there's some, there's credit scores, there's home ownership, small business ownership, but one of the biggest groups of opportunity is artificial intelligence at $1 trillion. What does some of that opportunity look like in your opinion, Sam?
This is, I'm a little biased because I spent so much of my life thinking about entrepreneurship, but what AI is doing for entrepreneurship is really quite amazing. I am hopeful that it means that people can start companies and do things that they never could before. We hear stories all the time from people using even ChatGPT in its current early form to run their entire business, to people to start companies that they just never thought they could before. People saying they have the leverage of a whole team of people before, and that kind of whatever they can think of, AI will increasingly be able to do. And I really care about entrepreneurship because I think it's the best way that we make the world better for everybody else. If we have more people, more ideas, being able to bring those ideas to life and get them to market faster, cheaper, and better, I think that's a huge thing. There'll be many other areas that AI is important for. What it will do for education, for healthcare. There's a lot of talk about these, but what it's going to do for entrepreneurship is something that I am personally very excited about, and I think it can make entrepreneurship more inclusive than it's ever been before.
Hey, Sam, this is Memphis Mayor Paul Young, excited to be able to have a conversation with you today. Here in Memphis, there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and the infrastructure around it. What advice would you give to city leaders like myself that's mayor of a city where we have this infrastructure coming into the community? How can our people take advantage of this technology long term? And I mean job creation. What are the jobs that exist in the development development of artificial intelligence that cities like Memphis can capitalize on.
And Sam, after this answer the mayor's question, I know you've got to go. Thanks for squeezing me in. By the way, congratulations on your new member of the family. And after you answer this question, I want you to I'd like you to fix it in the next month about writing a paper that we can put on the website that people can download that gives people more of your insight in the future of how underserved communities can embrace AI. But over to the mayor.
Everybody. So I think the most important thing for people to do is to just embrace the tools. I think the biggest predictor of people that are going to be successful with AI, to contribute to it, to benefit from it, probably is just getting familiar with the tools.
Yeah.
I remember, when computer programming was becoming a big thing, the best advice was to learn to program. I think the best advice right now is to learn to use AI. If you do that, if you get familiar with the tools, you'll have a good sense for what the big opportunities are, how to benefit from it, also what the flaws with the technology are and where you can contribute to working on it. What else needs to be built as part of the sort of like AI ecosystem. I think there is still fear of AI, confusion, but the more you use it, the more it goes away, and it's really easy to start using these tools, and they're becoming quite widely used. So by far, my number one piece of tactical advice is just find ways to use the tools in your life.
Sam, love you, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Write the paper.
I don't know if I can, but I'll think about it. I got to figure out what to say first.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you, Sam. That was amazing. Sam is literally leading this new revolution of everything. I think AI is going to literally change everything. And I have to encourage you to focus on two things. It will be financial literacy as a civil rights issue of this generation. By the way, thank you, the National Urban League. Mark Morial was on, President. Thank you, the NAACP, Derek. Thank you, Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson's, all the heroes and sheroes who helped to get us here. We're standing on all of those shoulders. I know Reverend Jackson's watching. I just got a note from his son. But financial literacy, I think it's a civil rights issue of this generation. And AI literacy, those are the two things that after you get to do with your civil rights, you need to adopt your civil rights right now. And on that point, I get to join my friend Kevin Boucher. Are we going to Doug or going to the Sunday? All right, because I'm trying to be respectful here. I'm shutting up actually. I see the CEO of a $2 trillion company online, and I think we should want to hear from him. I'm gonna shut up and let the moderator speak. Frank, you gotta tell me to be quiet.
Hey, John, number one, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure to be here with you as well. Thank you, everybody, for letting me be a part of this moment. We're going to get to our panel right now. It's titled A Moment of Truth, Assessing the Economic Landscape. We're going to talk about some of that economic uncertainty that's currently really impacting America. This panel of business and policy leaders, we're going to analyze today's economic climate and its specific impacts on underrepresented communities. We're also going to talk about the immediate realities, potential economic shifts, and maybe most importantly, John, the critical opportunities for economic advancement. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce the members of this panel. We have Deshonda Brown Duckett, the president and CEO of TIAA, the Honorable Mick Mulvaney, co-chair of ACTM, also the former White House chief of staff, Joseph Otting, executive chair, president, and CEO of Flagstar Financial, also the 31st U.S. Comptroller of the Currency, and Steve Steiner, chairman, president, and CEO of Huntington Bank. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Steiner, I know you have to get going very shortly, so I'm just going to begin with you first. There's a lot to talk about, and obviously a lot of news about the economy and some big shifts. How does the current economic environment, how does it uniquely impact Americans in the bottom two quartiles and middle-income families and low-income families?
Frank, I understand that Steve Steiner was having some technical difficulties. He may or may not be on. So.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah. I thought he was going to be there.
He's been texting me for some reason he couldn't get on.
Okay, well, we're going to hopefully involve him in the conversation, but Ms. Brown Duckett, we're going to come over to you. The same question, some of these big economic shifts, how do you see it impacting middle-income families and lower-income families?
Yeah, thank you. And John, just thank you so much for the invitation on this historic day. It really means a lot, and it's such an important conversation as you think about the work that you and so many others have and continue to do.
We're living with Deshonda.
When I think about the question, I think what's on the minds of everyone, if there was one word, it would be uncertainty. And it's not just looking at it at the macro level, it's looking at what it means at the household level. And when you think about the lower two quartiles, you're talking about really tough trade-offs. You're talking about the inflationary pressures, you're talking about the concerns of tariffs, you're talking about, job uncertainty, you're talking about the transformation that's happening around the marketplace. And I also think that the possible trade-offs are where people are having to have conversations between gas, rent, food, and do I continue to invest? Do I stay invested? Can I afford to continue to contribute to my retirement? And so I think some of the biggest concerns that we have, particularly those in the lower two quartiles, is the lack of buffer. When you are navigating market volatility, higher income earners have a sound buffer to navigate through. I think what we have to be mindful of is how do we help everyday Americans ensure that the short-term trade-off does not lead to long-term impact that goes directly to your stat, John, when you think about the negative net worth. And so I do think we have to ensure that the decisions are well thought of. I think it's a very important time that we are educating and reaching out to people, re-examining their balance sheet so that they can navigate this environment, but also make sure that they can navigate it in a way that they're not compromising their future retirement or compromising their future ability to transfer, assets to their family. So it's a real issue. It's a real problem for everyday Americans, a lot of anxiousness. And I think it's the role of all of us to make sure we're doing everything that we can to help people stay the course and navigate some pretty difficult times for lower income workers.
Well, thank you for that answer. Mick Mulvaney, I'm going to come over to you now. Same question.
Yeah, I'm concerned. The tariffs bother me when it comes to the impact on the bottom two quartiles of the economy. Tariffs are a sales tax. You could argue whether or not they're going to be a dollar for dollar sales tax. You can add $1 of tariff. Does it actually go to $1 of the price of a good? There's all sorts of arguments as to whether or not that's the case. But it's going to be an increase in some fashion. And sales taxes are regressive, and they hit the lower income quartiles more than they do the upper income quartiles. I mean, most people watching this show right now, this presentation, can make discretionary decisions about how to spend their money. The car, maybe they buy a new car, maybe they don't. If you're in the bottom 2/5 and your car breaks down, you don't have a choice. And you're going to have to pay the higher tariffs. You have to pay the higher tariffs for a new car, a used car, even the old parts for your old car. It's going to be a disproportionate impact on the lower 2/5. That being said, if I want to take the other side of the argument, because I think that the president is desperately trying to rebuild the American middle class through American manufacturing, and that would dramatically help the bottom 2/5. So, he's sort of gambling here. Let's hope he's correct. But as I sit here and look at just the last 48 hours, my answer to this question was different.
Let's hope he's correct.
But just in the last 48 hours, I look at this with a great deal of concern over the impact on the folks at the bottom of the economic ladder.
Joseph Otting, coming over to you. Same question. Obviously, you have a lot of exposure to people of a range of incomes operating a bank.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. And John Bryant, good friend and leader in the operation. Hope team, thanks for making this event possible. I know you did it under short conditions. It's really an honor to be here and celebrate the great contributions made to America by Dr. King. His principles of hope for all, economic justice, a nonviolent world, and freedom were really true 56 years ago, and they're just as evident and true today. I echo Mick's thoughts a little bit as I was preparing for my comments 3 days ago. They do take a slight turn, I think, today as well. And as we came into this week, I think there were clear aspects where, certain parts of the economy were starting to feel the stress of high inflation. Those are evidenced by, people's credit cards being high balances and past due mortgages, past due auto loans, and the impact that has, where, as Ms. Brown said, the ability for those homes to sit around the table and decide which bills they're going to pay and which ones they can pass on. And frequently that does not get resolved because there isn't a savings in those families and the buffer is not there. I do think, we're at a critical juncture here. And while the last 24 hours has driven down interest costs and has driven down energy prices. It'll take a vibrant economic environment where employment remains strong and people can self-select into new jobs for us to be able to kind of get out of this hole. So I do think this is a very pivotal time. As the other panelists have said, usually the negative economic impact are felt on the lower end of the economic scale. And we have been, I think, in that period of time for the last 6 to 9 months.
You know, you said that your view of things changed in the last couple of days. Obviously, a big announcement when it comes to tariffs. And then today we had the jobs report that was actually stronger than expected. Chanda, coming over to you. What economic indicators are you looking at as a possible predictor of improvement or more challenges for the bottom two quartiles?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the jobs are really important to see what's happening. And so I think it is positive, at least now, to see that it's pretty strong. I think the other piece is consumer spending data. Definitely gives us insight into financial confidence or stress consumers are experiencing. Delinquency rates are also, very important. I know John talks about the importance of a high credit score, and so the need to understand what's happening with delinquencies, I think, can be an important watch item. So far, I'd say delinquency rates has risen a bit, particularly on credit cards, but they're still historically low. But I do think, given the market uncertainty, it's a watch item. And I would also say, just given, my focus in understanding retirement security, I do think there's an opportunity for us as leaders where we all have, 401k plans or 403b plans to make sure that we're looking at the data to see, are we seeing our own employees not contributing or reducing their contribution? Are we seeing hardship withdrawals increasing? And so I do think that there are indicators that we as employers can take a look to also complement what you're seeing at the macro level. What's happening with our own employee base, and are we seeing them taking advantage of access in a way that may have long-term stress in the system, particularly for the people that work incredibly hard for our organizations.
All right, sorry about that. I got some technical difficulties, got kicked out.
And she said some employers are taking away their match on the 401k plan. Wow.
Sales data is key. Are there other additional indicators that you watch?
Yeah, there's a couple ones that probably don't hit most people's radars. We follow them a little bit as a community, but we follow these fairly closely when I ran the office management budget. One was the quit rate. The quit rate is that, the number of people who are disconnected from their job, separated from the job by their own free will. We loved to see that number going up, because what that spoke of was a confidence in the economy at the very basic level. And if you're looking for new business formation, the quit rate is something that we'd watch very closely. When it comes to unemployment, we didn't really, we pay attention to the unemployment rate. Everybody does, because it's sort of a top line number. But keep in mind, it's a quotient. It's the number of people, looking for a job.
Headed to the Final Four.
If you're not looking for a job,
roll to the Final Four. Ends in San Antonio.
None of the people on the screen here have
and that's exactly what we had.
None of us were looking for a job. The unemployment rate would be 0. So the number you really look at is that monthly number. Anything above 225 is usually a healthy number in our economy. If we start to see a couple of months below that, you can pay attention to the rate if you want to, but it's those numbers of jobs that are actually the hard number that we tracked a lot more closely at OMB. We also followed, believe it or not, we followed the SSDI claims, Social Security Disability Insurance claims, and if we saw those spike, oftentimes those are a substitute for folks who have run out of unemployment benefits. So those are the two maybe non-traditional numbers that we looked at that other folks don't look at. Quit rate and SSDI.
All right, so we're listening. So it's still tied to the job market. Joe, coming over to you. You mentioned credit card delinquencies a bit earlier. What data do you focus on? And is there something coming up, whether it's the Fed, commentary and the J-Powell press conference? Is there something coming up that's going to give you a sense of the strength of the economy right now?
Temperature has dropped.
Yeah, I think the two panelists addressed the employment issue well, and I think Nick's comments are important.
I was wondering why I was getting kind of chilly in here.
Job openings,
temperature to drop.
What does the job openings environment look like for people to go in either to new opportunities, and is that increasing or decreasing? And then to your question, Frank, we obviously continue to look very closely at interest rates and energy prices. We think those are big drivers, that have wide swaths in the economic environment. If people can either get into homes at, a 5% mortgage for 7%, that opens up a pretty significant path of people who could not afford a home at 7%, but they can at 5%. And if there's one kind of positive that's come out of this disruption, we've seen both in the 10 and the 5-year, which are frequent measures for home mortgage, that those rates have pulled back, anywhere from 50 to 80 basis points in the last week. So I think there's some optimism that those rates will be positively impacted into the mortgage marketplace.
We're almost out of time, so we have time for one more question. We're going to go around one more time. This Sunday, I'm going to come back over to you. Maybe one of the most important questions when it comes to all.
Hey, Frank, hold on. Joseph, stop talking in Japanese. What's a basis point? You don't know what a basis point is. Joseph Biden, what's a basis point? Can you hear me? Joseph Biden?
Joe, I don't know if you can hear John. He's talking to you directly.
No, yeah. We're talking another language. He said basis points. We can't assume we will understand these terms. By the way, there are thousands of people watching. It's being streamed by Roland Martin, streamed by Breakfast Club. I just got a note from the Connecticut Department of Corrections. They're streaming it. I love it. But please break this stuff down so everybody understands. What's a basis point, Joseph?
A basis point is 100 basis points equals 1%. So 10 basis points, that's 10/100ths of a percent.
Yeah, by the way, Joseph runs a $100 billion bank and is making huge commitments to Community Reinvestment Act.
100 basis points
who I trust.
1%.
And for those who don't know,
200 That's what basis points are, guys.
Not just in corporate America, but in the world. Her platform is $2 trillion, right?
Depends on the market. It's over $1.4 trillion, but we got to see what's happening in the market. It's probably a little less right now.
And we're proud of you. And Mick Mulvaney is a fair dealer. He's a good man. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on the most important things. We won't get into a debate about stuff we can't control today, but we even agreed on that about 2 weeks ago. Mick always tries to find the common ground, and whenever we disagree with that.
They always try to use these words, hidden words as I call them, hidden words, hidden terminology to try to confuse you. Instead of just saying 1%, 2%, 2%, 100 basis points, 200 basis points, just to try to confuse people or talk over your head.
AI itself is the entire ecosystem, around it. When you think about data centers, infrastructure, when you think about what it can fuel in terms of new job formations. And so that is something I think for all of us to get excited about. I also do think it's important to highlight that it will take public-private partnership to continue to drive long-term economic growth. And so I think as we think about things to be excited about, I'd say one, our economy long-term is resilient. And so though we have bumps, I think we play the long game. We still have innovation. We still have opportunities. Technology, I think, will be at the forefront of that growth, but policy will matter. And lastly, I would say, as I think through opportunities for economic growth that's emerging, that's a positive on the policy side, I do think public policy coming together around secure retirement. That is something that if we want to make sure that we can have healthy balances for families, we have to make sure that people can have a secure retirement. And there's been some really good bipartisan policy to make it easier for everyday Americans to have access to workplace plans and making it easier for people to contribute. And so I do think what that can create allows people to not have to transfer that burden to their families, their children, in order to stimulate the economy. I think you have to have a strong retirement system in order to do that. But technology, I think, is underpinning real economic growth long term.
All right, Mick, same question. Where are you seeing emerging opportunities in this current environment?
I'm going to go very quickly, and I'm going to go the entire other end of the spectrum from what everybody else has said. I'm going to move as far away from AI as you can and get down to the micro trades. Jay Powell today got asked a question about the home building industry. There's a tremendous opportunity out there for folks in the bottom half of the economic ladder to lift themselves up through skilled trades. There's 5 trades. I'm a 3rd generation home builder. For every 5 tradesmen that retires this year, there'll be only 2 coming to take the place. It's a tremendous economic advantage. We need to figure out a way to still promote education and financial literacy for sure. But folks who work with their hands are going to be able to make a lot of money going forward to the next generation. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity that's being overlooked at the bottom half of the economic scale.
All right, Joe, you're up. We're not going to ask you to do any more definitions, but where are you seeing emerging opportunities?
There's going to be a test afterwards, Joseph.
I think Mick and Ms. Brown's comments were right on. But the one thing that I would add, which I think really makes a difference, is I'm a big believer of bringing underrepresented people into the work environment and giving them exposure. And whether that's summer events or holiday events where they get exposure to what a company looks like, what's the environment like, what's legal, what's HR, what's technology, and giving those people an opportunity to see a world that they're not exposed to. It's fundamental, but it changes people's dreams and aspirations. And while all the other stuff is important, I think frequently it starts at the individual level.
All right, we're going to have to leave the conversation there. Thank you both, or all 3 of you, I should say, for your time and for your insight. Cassandra Brown Duckett, President and CEO of TIA, the Honorable Nick Mulvaney, Co-Chair of Active and former White House Chief of Staff, and Joseph Otting, Executive Chair, President and CEO of Flagstar Financial, also the 31st U.S. Comptroller of the Currency. Thank you again. John, coming back over to you.
Frank, thank you. And really think about that group of panelists, Mr. Mayor. You had government, you had, which is government receipts, taxes coming in because of the growing economy. You had banking, financing that, and you had the son to Duckett, you have TIA Craft managing investment portfolios. If you go now to my Business Plan of America, by the way, they're all available on the website now for Dream Forward. Go there, download them. They're free. They're completely as I wrote them. And now the Emory University Department of Economics and the Clark Atlanta School of Business are both going to be taking these plans along with 100 founding delegates who are watching online, by the way, and they'll be writing addendums and amendments to these plans and growing them over the preceding months. But all 3 of these are really foundational to that business plan. I'm now honored to, Mr. Mayor, to bring on somebody I really admire and respect. I actually call him my brother from another mother oftentimes. A man who grew up in, not just in Walmart, but I believe he was a box boy or something. I think he was like literally putting boxes on shelves. You'll have to tell me that, whether it's accurate. But you would know him as the Chief Executive Officer of the #1 Fortune 500 company in America. And to give that some context for the audience, we're the largest economy in the world, America, 28, 29 trillion, at least for the moment. We're the sole superpower in the world. We got to try to make sure that this party keeps going. Obviously, that's what this meeting is about. It's going to take all of God's children to do that. And that means the companies in America are arguably the biggest in the world. And the #1 Fortune 500 company, which is the biggest companies, is Walmart, #1. And the Chief Executive Officer of Walmart is Doug McMillan, who joins us today, who's co-chair with me on financial literacy for all. Doug, thank you for being with us.
Hi, John. Hi, Mary Young. Thanks for the invitation.
Is it accurate that you started pretty humbly, by the way, at Walmart?
Yeah, I started in a warehouse unloading trailers when I was a teenager, like a lot of us around here did. Start at the beginning.
Is it also true, and I want all the audiences to hear this, I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on this, but you're going to correct me. Is it also true you're the largest employer for African Americans by far in the United States of America?
It is true. In the U.S., we employ about 1.6 million people, and approximately 20% of those are Black or African American.
And is it true you pay them a living wage?
It is true that you can build a career at Walmart and have a great opportunity. The living wage definition depends on how many people are in your household and whether you're married or not and all that kind of stuff. But what we've been doing, John, I think, as you know, is putting together a series of steps to basically create a ladder of opportunity, raising wages for hourly associates, cash bonus, 401k. We've now got 1.1 million people participating in our 401k plan, which has got a company match, 475,000 people participating in our stock purchase plan. 81% of those are hourly. So paying now for college education, we pay for tuition and certificates so people can get the skills they need. Basically, just like the opportunity I was given, get in the company, get started, work hard, do a good job, and you can become a market manager and make $600,000 a year, or a store manager.
Whoa, back up. Slow that down. That went too fast. Wait, slow that down. One more time so folks in the back of the room can hear it. Did you just say that a manager can make over $500,000 a year?
I did. Our Walmart U.S. store managers now have that opportunity to earn a living, and half of them last year, John, made $100,000 as a cash bonus on top of that. You can be a truck driver and your first year make $100,000 at Walmart.
I saw somewhere, and I don't know this is accurate. You got to correct me, Doug. We didn't talk about this. I saw somewhere, Mr. Mayor, that it is possible that you could run, I don't know if it was a mega store or a region, and in the next few years, you might make as much as $1 million a year. Did I read that wrong?
Yeah, it depends on which location you're in and what your cash bonus is. But yeah, there's a structure that enables you to do really well at store manager level.
So it's over $500,000 a year for sure, and bonuses, and you're paying for the education, the college education for some of your associates.
We are. We pay for tuition, books, and everything, and we've already got tens of thousands of people that have graduated through what we call Live Better You. So again, trying to put it all together, and what you did for me, John, is we had financial literacy education in the company, but when I started spending time with you, I started understanding that it didn't matter how much you made, you could still mess it up. You could still fail to succeed for your family if you didn't understand how money worked. So we went back and doubled down on financial literacy, and that's where Financial Literacy for All came from. You and I were talking about how pretty much every company has some sort of educational program for financial literacy, but maybe the CEOs weren't as focused on that as they could be, and maybe they could make the program a little bit better, and by doing that, they could help people succeed. And I had the benefit of having a dad and a granddad that taught me about the value of compounding interest and the importance of saving money no matter how much money I made as a young person. If I could put a little bit aside, the time value of money would help make that into something meaningful. And so that's what we've been trying to say to everybody, whether you've started as a cashier or you started as a truck driver or now you're a store manager and you make a lot of money. Here's how you should think about managing your money so you've got a bright retirement and a better life.
And when you look at Walmart, and I want to double down on the financial literacy piece, because you actually created a program that over 1 million of your associates have now engaged in. That actually does not involve Operation Hope. It was just you did it on your own initiative. Why'd you do that? Why wasn't you? You already given them 401k match, by the way. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially the company willing to match you dollar for dollar for savings for the future, investment in your future. So you put up $1 in an account and they'll match you $1 or whatever it is. And it's a beautiful program, and that's what he was talking about. So I do want to know why'd you go sort of double down and figure out you decide you want to do more there. But the one reason I was excited about having you as my co-chair of Financial Literacy for All, beyond the fact that you're willing to open doors and put your reputation on the line to be a voice for others, which you've done by opening doors to these other CEOs. I think we have now 75 CEOs involved with Financial Literacy for All at the Fortune 500 level. And by the way, all the sports teams, all the sports franchises are now involved. Isn't it true that really represent all of America? Like if you're looking for Latino America, there's a big group. You're looking for Native Americans, there's a group. You're looking for rural poverty or rural communities that are underserved, that's a huge group. Poor whites, struggling blacks, middle class. I mean, you guys have even gone upscale in some of your products, trying to capture some of Mayor Young's population. Is it true that you guys sort of represent demographically as a pulse check everybody?
We do. We look like America, and that's awesome. We love that. This morning we had a couple of hundred of our associates together from around the country that are celebrating 25, 30, some of them 40 and 45 year service awards with the company. And John, they're as diverse as they could be. Like that's what our company looks like. It looks like our country.
And
so back to your question, just real quick, they're using digital tools at work all the time. So what we did with our app that our store associates use is we inserted financial literacy into it, because learning about money can be intimidating and it can be an uncomfortable conversation. But by making it easy for people to access, we've already had 430,000 Walmart associates access their credit score and give us some feedback on what they're doing to improve it. And I know that's foundational where it starts. Hey, can I ask you, why is financial literacy what you have dedicated your life to? Like, why is that your calling?
I think it's a civil rights issue of this generation. I think it's as important as the right to vote. I think it's as important. I think a 700 credit score is as important as a 4-year education in this current world we're living in. And I think, if you look at just the stats for Black American, people might say, why is he focusing on Black America? Well, that's what Dr. King initially, he was Black, obviously. I'm Black, so it's common sense. But it's also the group at the lowest level of everything. The lowest level of poverty, the lowest level of access to opportunity, the lowest levels of credit. So you start there. It also has the lowest credit score as a group, below 620 of all Black people, which means that half of us, Doug, wake up in the morning locked out of the free enterprise system. It doesn't matter whether we go to church and we pray to God and we're a good person and we pay our taxes and we're decent and we're loving. If your credit score is not at a point where you can access credit, either you're stuck with alternative credit vehicles, I don't want to go into that, but very costly, or you're locked out completely. You can't get a good loan at 620 for an auto loan. You can't get a decent mortgage at 620. You can't get a small business loan, I don't care how brilliant the idea is, below 700 because it's a risky credit. So to getting everybody's credit score up to 700, which is financial literacy, I thought was freedom. And a CEO once told me that he thought that economic and financial freedom was the only true freedom because it's the only one no one can take away from you. And I found that to be true. And so I think it's, once you have it, no one takes it away from you unless you give it up. But financial literacy just makes you smarter, wiser, brighter, allows you to operate with dignity in the world. As Dr. King said, I am a man. It allows you to walk with your back, your shoulders back, and your head up with dignity. It's the color's green, as you well know, not black or white or red or blue. The color's green. And if we can get the credit score up, we get the financial literacy up, you're able to take your place in the society. And Doug, I just want to, again, to thank you for your leadership on financial literacy for all. You didn't have to do it. You made the first 3 calls to CEOs along with me 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. And now it's got momentum, and I appreciate you. Hopefully we can get legislation in this country. I know you got to go, Doug. Is there anything else that you want to ask me or the mayor or say to the audience about why you think this moment's important, why you thought it was important to be here as a caring American? And it's also true, I wanted to speak for the audience, that you guys have not backed off at all supporting small businesses with contracts and opportunities. Saying that, but I want to make sure that's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I acknowledge that we were in the news in December for making adjustments to some of our programs. I've met with some of the people that are participating today and explained what's happened here. But the bottom line is we're still an opportunity company for everybody, and we're working hard to make that happen. The reason I care about this is because I believe that our country will only thrive if families feel like that the future for their children can be better than the future they've had, and not enough people believe that today. And part of the reason they don't believe that is because they don't understand how money works and they don't feel like there's true opportunity. So awareness related to financial literacy is foundational in my mind. Successful families make successful communities make a successful country. I'm holding these green socks, John, as you know, because we've got on April 30th Green Sock Day, where where Operation Hope and Walmart and hopefully a bunch of other people are going to try to raise awareness for financial literacy. I'm going to go spend time in a local school here talking about how money works. I know you're going to be out there too. These are $4.97 on Walmart.com if anybody needs a pair of green socks.
That is the quintessential retailer there. My man's always selling something. I love it. And by the way, yes, April 30th, Green Socks Day. Again, I love the colors green, whether it's the environment or economics. It's something we all can get with. And Doug and my hope is, whether you're black or you're white, whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you're Republican or you're Democrat, whether you're rural or you're urban, you can put some green socks on April 30th and do something for financial literacy. Take a photo, upload it with a tag, Green Socks Day. And by the way, NASDAQ's going to feature the top post on their big board and invite the top 10 submissions to ring the bell at the NASDAQ on their closing bell in May. Thank you so much, Doug, for your leadership. I will tell the audience that when I need to ask a very important question, I need to understand something holistically, I'll text Doug, and he'll hit me back at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday and call and say, let's talk about this. So this is the real person behind the title. He's a good man, and I thank you for leaning in on financial literacy for all in this business plan for America, Doug.
Thank you, John. You're a good man.
Peace and light. Thank you. We have right now the Bishop for Black America, Black Pope, Bishop, none other, for not only the United States, Mr. Mayor, but the world. You go to Africa, you go to Latin America, you go to Brazil, and everybody says the same thing. I mean, he makes traffic stop when he goes to Nigeria, where he was recently. But everybody's heart stopped when we thought his heart stopped in the first of this year when he had a medical situation. We were all praying for you, and I'm so glad that you're looking great and doing great. Literally, again, I joke, but I'm really serious. The Black Pope, the man who is a symbol for inspiration and spiritual leadership for all of us here and around the world. Bishop T.D. Jakes, who's also Chairman T.D. Jakes. He also has, separate apart from his ministry, he's a very accomplished author. He's got many bestseller books. He's been a producer of movies and films, music, developing property. He just really is a great father and a great friend. And I'm honored to call you my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Thank you very much for your kind and warm words. I am delighted to be here on behalf of T.D. Jakes Group, and at your request, I don't know whether you invited me because you couldn't get anybody else or what it is.
No, we just wanted you.
I'm glad you're here. Delighted to have an opportunity to address you all. America is in an interesting place right now, as we all realize, but it has been in interesting places before. It has been in times of great turmoil and tests and trials, and yet those times have proved to be times of great innovation and great creativity. And instead of focusing on the areas that give us the most concern, we have to take this opportunity to seize the opportunity for transformative thinking and work together to create a perfect union, a more equitable society, a group of people who are working together, integrating our ideologies for the betterment of the country and for the betterment of underserved communities. I'm supposed to be leading a panel. I have the privilege of leading a panel talking about reimagining opportunity. And now is the time that we have to reimagine opportunity. It is really about transformational ideas to reshape America's economy, and we have to really be innovative and aggressive in order to get things done, because we are the people that we have been waiting on. We can't sit back any longer and wait on people to consider us. We have to consider ourselves, one, because we understand ourselves, we know what we need, two, because for too long we have had too many people making decisions about us without us. And so this is a great format, and I welcome all of you that are watching around the country and perhaps even around the world as we tackle such complex subjects. Those subjects are for us, to us, and about us, and the us is not just you and me and people who look like me, but we affect the rest of the world as well, because we are a part of one human race that we have to understand until other people understand it as well. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity.
Bishop, thank you for that. Thank you for your, not only your blessings, but your wisdom and your counsel that you have given me over the last few weeks as we were designing this program. Your counsel at midnight, often when you had a long day and the last person you want to talk to was me. Oh my God, here's John Bryan again. Thanks for answering the phone. Thanks for having grace and giving me wisdom. So in part today is because of you. The mayor wants to ask you something before you get to the panel, but as we encourage people to download these business plans, which are written in their format, they're formal, they are structured, they are things I think that are accessible for people. How important, my question for the mayor asked the question, how important, Bishop, is it for folks to focus on what they can do in their own life to raise their own GDP versus just waiting for the private sector or the government or I guess I believe God helps also to help those who help themselves. How important is it for you to have a business plan for your own personal life and not just wait for somebody else to give you hope for your life?
Well, thank you for the question, Shamar, illustrious mayor. Great to see you. Great to have this opportunity to converse with you, and looking forward to your contributions and thoughts as we continue to dialogue on this issue. I think it starts in the home, not in the school, not in chats, not even in conferences, but it starts in the home where we begin to broach subjects that we don't normally talk about around the kitchen table. In fact, we don't gather around the table anymore. But that's a tragedy, because the first infusion of understanding the significance of money came when I was about 8 years old, and my mother gave me a passbook savings account to Canal Valley Bank in West Virginia as a Christmas gift. All the other kids, they got the cool toys. They were riding around in bicycles and stuff like that, but my mother gave me a passbook and put $50 in it and started me to saving and thinking differently about money. Mindsets control assets, and we can't start too early. That's why even in our own Good Soil Forum, we include an element called Lemonade Day that is focused on teaching young people how to be entrepreneurs. I think every individual has to take some responsibility for their outcome and not just be controlled by their salary. It's really up to your own entrepreneurial creativity. That's why we're emphasizing a Good Soil entrepreneurship, because it stops us from being at the mercy of layoffs, cutoffs, setbacks, left behind, underpaid, undersupported, seldom recognized. You can tell me how much you're going to pay me, but you can't tell me how much I'm going to make, because I have creativity and talent. And if I have strategy against that creativity and talent, it equals success. And success means different things for different people. But to begin to think differently, your mindsets often affect your assets. And I think it's very, very important that we do not limit our mindset to just a job. Subsidize the job while we fight for equal pay and equal rights and the right to vote and all those other important things that need to be fought for. We still have to eat, and we still have to buy property, and we still have to have passive and aggressive streams of income. We have to begin to talk to our people about ownership and stewardship and recognizing our responsibility to take hold of our own destiny and grip it tightly and not be at the mercy of the whims of the times or the administrations that come and go. They will always come and go, some leaning towards, some leaning away from us. But we have to lean in and hear the conversations that we're about to have. The mayor has been a good illustration. Committed he is to the underserved and making sure that their needs are met. And we need to have those kinds of role models, not just mentors, but role models that we can see that climbed up the ladder and started on the same rung that we did. Because often those who had it push higher than us can advise us, but that advice does not take into consideration that you had a shovel when I had a spoon. We need people digging who dug themselves out from a spoon and came to the place that they were able to do what they're going to do. So thank you for that question. I see my panel coming in, and I think I better go to work so we can stay on schedule a little bit. I've got enough brain power on here to blow up the planet, and I'm grateful to have each and every one of them. I want to introduce them formally. We've got the Honorable Andre Dickens, who is the mayor of the city of Atlanta, maybe the president of the city of Atlanta. I don't know. We need to get another. We're grateful to have him. He is the chairman and CEO of Stand Together and president of the Charles. Really been leaning into these tough topics and not shied away from tough topics like entrepreneurship, like returning citizens from incarceration. They've leaned in and put their resources and relationships behind doing that. And we have been the recipient of them as well. So we're grateful to have you as well. Now, my longtime friend and brother from another mother, Van Jones, I love him to life, and he is the founder of Dream Machine Innovation Lab. I'm glad to have all of you, and I want all of you to welcome them as we come together in a collective synergy of intellectualism to the intent that we might be able to discuss and create innovative ideas and have a discussion that might stir something inside of you that causes you to be your best self and your better angels to come forward so that you can get things done. So let's jump right into this and see where we go. How can we leverage innovation to expand opportunities and communities historically excluded from wealth creation? And I'm going to start out with Brian. And Brian, if you give a whack at that, we're living in the most innovative time. And yet we're living in a time of great chaos. How can we use innovation to cause us to be upwardly mobile? Innovation, technology, artificial intelligence, and innovation that starts with human intelligence. I think sometimes we don't give human intelligence enough credit because we're so excited about artificial intelligence, failing to realize that all that artificial intelligence learned it from us. So give us some of that brain power, Brian.
Well, look, Bishop Jakes, it's so good to be with you. And how could I answer the question better than you just did? One of the things that I've really valued about our relationship and working with you over the past couple of years is that you start with a deep belief in people, right? And that's what we learned that we each had in common when we first met. And I think that's the answer to your question. Innovation in technology, innovation in different industries, all of that is really, really important. But the only way that we are, as a society, going to benefit from the upside of all of those new tools and new technologies that will continue to evolve is if we believe that every single person has the potential to contribute to that innovation. And so, I look at this as a time of tremendous disruption. That's an obvious thing to say. And the downside of that disruption is very, very significant. But the upside opportunity to reimagine the institutions that people rely on to be successful and to find their path to participate in the kind of progress and innovation that you're talking about is enormous. If we take seriously the barriers right now that are holding people back, that are causing tens of millions of people to be on the sidelines, it's extraordinary, whether that's in education, whether that's in business, whether that's in finance, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. There's a lot of things that we can do to harness innovation, but the first thing that we have to do is we got to change our mindset. We've got to stop seeing the people that are excluded, the people that are struggling as problems to be solved. And we've got to start to see them for the potential that they've got. And when you start to think that way, you don't think about how do I help people? You start to think, how do I help society by helping unlock the potential in these people who are being excluded? And when you do that, you can't help but think big. You're not talking about small, you're thinking about radical innovation to improve the institutions that people rely on to be successful. That's what we're doing together with our Good Soil Project. That's what Dan, you and I have had the good fortune to be able to work together in helping to unlock the barriers of people in the criminal justice system. Mayor, I'm in Atlanta right now. I'm headed to a new restaurant in your fine city called Cafe Momentum.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great example of this. The kids that come out of the juvenile justice system that are the interns in Cafe Momentum, these are world-class individuals. They need what we all need. They need people to come alongside them and believe in them so that they can believe in themselves. And when they do, there's no limit to what they can accomplish. And so I think we need to radically re-envision the institutions in our society, and this moment of disruption is an opportunity to do that. But it starts with this deep belief in all people.
Thank you for that, and what a great statement, and well stated and well said. It is so true that we need to stop seeing people as problems, underserved communities as problems, but see them as growth opportunities. For example, only about 40 to 44% of African Americans own their own home, as opposed to 75% of Caucasians own their own home. So if you're going to build homes, if you're going to loan mortgages, this is a growth opportunity, not a problem. It's a growth opportunity for expansion, and we can do good and still do well if we have the kind of mindset that you're talking about. Mayor Dickens, would you jump in on this and just kind of share some of your innovative thoughts for society as we move forward?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Bishop Jakes. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your partnership around the city of Atlanta. And good to see you, Brian, and also Van and Mayor Young, as well as brother Hope, Brian, John Hope, Brian. It's good to see you all. Thank you for having me on here. Listen, innovation is critical. We have to leverage innovation for all of our communities. We got to make sure that we have cities and communities that provide opportunities for all. The future is inevitable. It's coming. And we have to stay ahead of the game. How we do that, particularly us leaders in the public sector, the civic leaders, we have to understand what the private sector is doing. We have to know what the folks that move capital, that deal with technology, that understand innovative tactics and tools, what are they using? Because we need to use those in the public sector. I am an engineer. And so when I go out, I'm thinking about things strategically and utilizing innovation. As mayor, I created the Mayor's Office of Innovation and Technology so that we can go out there and leverage what is in the private sector, whether that's investing in technology companies and startups, whether that's utilizing innovation in our housing development models. We're building housing more innovative means. We're using shipping containers. We're taking modular construction. We're utilizing rapid housing development capabilities to be able to provide housing for whether it's homeless individuals or low-cost housing. We're doing all of that by, a lot of times we're utilizing public-private partnerships. That's something that, government traditional RFP processes can be effective, but also there's a way to use innovation to help get projects done better, faster, cheaper, and with more innovation, because the private sector has a competitive edge and a desire to stay, cost efficient and also to do things in a more creative, unique way. And so business helps drive the ideology behind some of the government work that we're doing. Brian just mentioned Cafe Momentum, which is a very good way to help people get a second chance. It is a whole restaurant with staff that are trained and that are working that have a record. Right now I'm drinking Water Boys in the Hood water. We're known for our water boys, the guys that stand on the corner, and we helped them create a business. We took them off the corner and said, you be real entrepreneurs. You don't have to stand out here in the heat and you're only making a little bit, you're dodging traffic. Why don't we get you a product that can go inside of restaurants and stores and teach you a skill so that you can go out here and you can one day own a big water company, right? And so we're taking, kids and folks that have desire and helping to innovate. And we're doing that through some community development entities, CDEs, in our Invest Atlanta. You can look it up, investatlanta.com, and CDFIs, which have been threatened by this federal administration, but community development financial institutions are important ways for us to be able to develop in our communities in areas that need it the most. And so being innovative is a way for us to really help with wealth creation and community stabilization.
Thank you for all the work that you have done and are doing to make us have a better society. I think sometimes we get so strung up on federal government, and it's very important, but we don't give enough attention to local government, which deals with those bread and butter issues that hit the tables of everyday Americans. And being a trailblazer in that way is very inspirational. Excited about the opportunities to work with you, and we're working through some things, trying to be able to do that more efficiently and more effectively. We're excited to do that and really, really glad. I can't leave Van out of this conversation or he'll text me and fuss at me about it. So Van, what do you say in terms of innovation? And I just know Strive Messiah will come on. My dear friend Strive Messiah, who has done so many things with EcoNet and other entities that he runs all the way from Zimbabwe, where he grew up, to being a global leader and a billionaire and an influencer. And as much money as he's made, he's got that much brilliancy. Welcome, Strive. I'm glad they put you on with me. Makes me somebody. Van, talk to me a little bit. If I turn Strive loose on this AI stuff, we're going to be on fire.
Well, I'm almost embarrassed to talk now that we have Strive on here, but maybe I'll do a little alley-oop before he talks. I mean, one of the reasons that John O'Brien, my great friend and leader, wanted to do this today is because it is the anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, April the 4th, 1968, 57 years ago. And I think people misunderstand Dr. King. They think Dr. King was somebody who was trying to make history. Dr. King was never trying to make history. History in the past. He was trying to make tomorrow better. Dr. King was a radical Afrofuturist who had a vision of a black future, an American future. That's what a dream is. It's about it's a future state. And he on the March on Washington freestyled, as a 33-year-old kid, freestyled a radical vision of black folk and white folk getting along and children playing together. That could have been Star Trek or Star Wars. It was so beyond what we were living with every day. And that is his great contribution, is he gave us a future. And so we spent a lot of time on Black History. At this point, I would trade in about 10 Black History months for one Black Future weekend. Where are we going? What is tomorrow going to be? And so I'm very proud to have joined forces about a year and a half ago with will.i.am. We launched a campaign called Make Wakanda Real. Make Wakanda Real. Why? Because Wakanda in the Marvel superhero universe is an African nation that uses technology better than anyone else. They use vibranium, which are the minerals of that place. Frankly, Africa has real vibranium when it comes to cobalt and everything else that Elon Musk and these people need to run their gadgets. And they also honor their ancestors. They're also very spiritual, and they use technology in a heroic way. And so we try to put that forward as a vision because, as was mentioned, we do have AI now. But what does that mean? There are two different futures here. One is AI where it's all data and no wisdom, and it could be used to replace human beings with robots and leave humanity behind, or it could be used to lift humanity up. And for the first time, we have three different kinds of intelligences on one planet. We have non-human biological intelligence, in other words, nature, which is very wise. And if we listen to her, we will be much better off. But so you have non-human biological intelligence, which gave rise to human biological intelligence, which is us. And now we've given rise to non-human, non-biological intelligence, in other words, AI. So you have three different kinds of intelligence that share one planet and possibly soon the moon and Mars. How are we going to make sure that the least of these, the people that Jesus referred to as the least of these, the addicted, the convicted, the afflicted, the evicted, the poorly depicted, how did the least of these prosper in a world where nature may be moving in a hostile direction when it comes to climate change, humans haven't been kind to each other, and now we have AI. And so that requires vision. That requires a future state that we can all aim ourselves toward. And I think that Atlanta in particular, Mr. Mayor, has a chance to be that Wakanda, has a chance to take some of the entrepreneurs and give them these new tools of generative AI, agentic AI, point our young people toward biotech, toward quantum, toward private space flights, toward cryptocurrency, toward blockchain. There are new exponential technologies that are coming on. And the great danger for Black folks is that we can be so threat sensitive that we forget to be opportunity sensitive. We can be so concerned about the bad things that are coming. And Dr. King talked about equal protection from bad stuff. We also talked about equal opportunity, equal access to the good stuff. And there's good stuff coming. And there are people who are broke right now who are going to be billionaires tomorrow. People who are billionaires right now are going to be broke tomorrow because of these new technologies. And the last thing I'll say is when Will.i.am and I pushed this campaign, Make Wakanda Real, we faced real skepticism from people who were saying, well, 99% of Black folk, Van Jones, don't know anything about AI. And I said, you're correct. 99% of Black folk don't know anything about AI. And 99% of white folk don't either, because it's brand new. This is called equality. This is the only equality I've ever seen. We are all equally ignorant about all this new stuff. The future is not written, and we have the opportunity to write it together if we'll pick up these tools and use them. And nobody's done that more or better than Strive, so I will now be quiet.
Well, thank you for that brilliant
80 miles left.
As it were, as we begin
right
to
around 80 miles.
Dr. King is
Road to the Final Four stops at San Antonio. We 80 miles away.
He made many other speeches dealing with economic empowerment.
Making a move.
He was really leading the Poor People's March toward the end of his life to eradicate poverty. Because if you eradicate poverty, you eradicate crime.
Yes.
You build better homes, you build stronger children, you build a better society. And I'm not saying that economics is the only part of it, but I am saying that when I've never been mugged by anybody who had to go to work in the morning. So understanding that a good job and a good opportunity makes a safer place for all people to live, then it's just better for a more equitable society.
80 miles away.
Brother Strive, I do not know how to get there.
Got 80 miles to go. Road to the Final Four stops at San Antonio. We 80 miles away.
I'm pack up my stuff as soon as I finish doing the work I'm doing here in Dallas. What do you say about technology? And to be honest, I have been a recipient.
Appreciate y'all for taking this ride with me. I really appreciate it. Y'all rode the whole ride with me. Well, just about the whole ride. But y'all been in the car chilling, rocking and rolling, listening to this great financial plan that they got for America. This is my reaction video.
So there are some amazing things that are being done with technology. I wish and pray and hope that our laws would catch up with our innovation, so that we can stop evildoers from participating in that. And one of the things that we're doing, Strive, with Good Soil Forum is bringing entrepreneurs in, not only exposing them to access to capital. We're able to give through the last two we've done, we've given $500 million away each year to startup companies and businesses who are trying to scale and grow their businesses. And technology plays a part in it, because technology doesn't get sick. It doesn't have to take off from work. It will work the late shift and the day shift and the morning shift and all of that. And for startup companies and even mid-sized companies, it can be a great asset. I realize that takes away some jobs, but it doesn't take away jobs if the people are qualified to run the technology. They have opportunities. And to those that are not qualified, we have to offer them some alternatives. Every doctor needs a plumber. You still need somebody that can get in there and wire that house for you. Technology can now build a house. But it still takes humans to put the roof on the house. And so there are great opportunities. What does Wakanda look like to you, Stride?
Thank you, Bishop Didi. What a wonderful, wonderful honor it is to actually see you. We were praying for you without ceasing, as the Bible says.
Thank you.
And if you ever felt like you were being lifted in your bed, that was our prayers. We love you, man, and it's also a great honor to be here to see our father, Andrew Young.
Stop. Bishop,
yes.
You know, you and I know this guy. People may not know this guy. This is a man on the continent of Africa. It's a Bill Gates of Africa, not of a country, of the whole continent. The first man to provide cell phones to black people, I believe, in Nigeria, or maybe anywhere in Africa. And now he's laying copper fiber optic lines. I think later he's laying internet lines. He's doing AI. Across the entire continent. This is the definition of big barbershop caller. You can't say it, Bishop, but I can. Stride Masiyiwa is the man. Okay, I'm done. Goodbye.
John, you're too kind. You're too kind. We give glory to God. We thank Him for all His mercies. You know, as it's really a privilege to be part of this conversation, because it really is part of the dream that Martin Luther King had for us. You know, he very quickly between civil rights and decolonization of Africa and the importance of our global community. And this is something we've all wanted to see realized. And, you know, talking of Africa, I'm actually in Nairobi in a hotel. I just stopped over do this meeting to jump on. Just some quick reflections on Africa here about. We're a continent of 1.3 billion people. We are the youngest population in the world. Our GDP is $3 trillion, just over 10% of the American GDP, but has been growing at the fastest rate outside China. We have speed bumps, we have challenges across a vast continent, but it's also home to the largest number of Black-owned businesses in the world. It is also home to the most global economy. We manufacture, we produce, we run telecommunication, everything that the rest of the world does. We're not exotic. I'm coming from chairing the Africa AI Summit, where I announced that we've just acquired NVIDIA chips that we are rolling out and begin to provide the compute so that young people can begin to develop their AI applications. But already we have thousands of young African people who are building tech businesses in all our major cities, Nairobi, where I am, Kigali, Lagos, Cape Town. So yes, Wakanda exists. It is here then. And we are building it every day. And we are a place of extraordinary hope and extraordinary faith. the largest Christian community of the world is African. In 2021, Africa became the home of the largest number of Christians in the world. It's not the United States, it's Africa. Last time I met Bishop T.D. Jakes, I was walking in the streets in Ghana, and I know him. And I said, hey, Bishop. And the two of us ended up doing one of the most extraordinary times we had. And of course, the streets of Accra, Bishop, full of African Americans.
Yes.
Home and participating, and we want you to come. We want to build our community together. Yes, we have challenges, but let us not forget that we're one global community, from Africa to the United States, to the Caribbean, to Brazil. And we stand together. We will be just fine, and our Wakanda is real. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and let us keep the dream that was left to us by our fathers. Martin Luther King.
Thank you for hitting the like button.
Andrew Young, Mandela. These were all contemporaries, as we are contemporaries, and we carry the torch. No matter the challenge that we are in, we have always worked in the conditions and not against the conditions. Our progress has been built, and may this be a call to a revitalization even of our faith, It's a time for faith. We will be just fine. And I look forward to seeing you either in America or here in Africa. You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity. God bless you all.
Thank you.
I gotta rewind this segment. This guy that was talking is the 6th richest man in Africa. I gotta rewind this. Pay attention to what he's saying. Let me get it right. 152.
But already we have thousands of young Africans.
They want African Americans, the right ones though, in Africa.
Population in the world. Our GDP is $3 trillion. Just over 10% of the American.
Africa is growing, guys.
This is a definition of big barbershop calling. You can't say it, Bishop, but I can. Stride Masiyiwa is the man.
Stride Masiyiwa, that's his name.
John, you're too kind. You're too kind.
The 6th richest man in Africa.
Thank him for his mercies. You know, as it's really a privilege to be part of this conversation, because it really is part of the dream that Martin Luther King had for us. You know, he understood the nexus very quickly between civil rights and decolonization of Africa, and the importance of our global community. And this is something we've all wanted to see realized. And you know, talking of Africa, I'm actually in Nairobi in a hotel. I just stopped over so I could do this meeting with you. And so I will have to jump off and go.
This guy is the 6th richest man in all of Africa. Listen and pay attention to what he's saying, guys.
Really, I just wanted to leave you with some quick reflections on Africa that you often don't hear about. We're a continent of 1.3 billion people. We are the youngest population in the world. Our GDP is $3 trillion, just over 10% of the American GDP, but has been growing at the fastest rate outside China. We have speed bumps, we have challenges across a vast continent, but it's also home to the largest number of Black-owned businesses in the world. It is also home to the most diverse involvement produce to dance. We're not coming from chairing the African. When I announced that we've just acquired NVIDIA chips that we are rolling out and beginning to provide the compute so that Africa's young people can begin to develop their AI applications. But already we have thousands of young African people who are building tech businesses in all our major cities, Nairobi, where I am, Kigali, Lagos, Cape Town. So yes, Wakanda exists. It is here, and we are building it every day. And we are a place of extraordinary hope and extraordinary faith. The largest Christian community of the world is African. In 2021, Africa became the home of the largest number of Christians in the world. It's not the United States, it's Africa. So last time I met Bishop T.D. Jakes, I was walking in the streets in Ghana, and I know him, and I ran, and I said, "Hey, Bishop." And the two of us ended up doing one of the most extraordinary times we have. And of course, the streets of Accra, Bishop, full of African Americans.
Yes.
Home and participating, and we want you to come. We want to build our community together. Yes, we have challenges, but let us not forget that we're one global community, from Africa to the United States, to the Caribbean, to Brazil. And we stand together. We will be just fine, and our Wakanda is real. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and let us keep the dream that was left to us by our fathers. Martin Luther King, Ambassador Andrew Young, Mandela. These were all contemporaries, as we are contemporaries, and we carry the torch. No matter the challenge that we are in, we have always worked in the conditions and not against the conditions. Our progress has been built, and may this be a call to a revitalization even of our faith, TDJ. It's a time for faith. We will be just fine. And I look forward to seeing you either in America or here in Africa. You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity. God bless you all.
Thank you. We're delighted to have you. Thank you for dropping in on us. I know you got to drop out, but a lot of people do not realize that a lot of our AI materials are now being shipped in from Africa. Kenya is kind of like the Silicon Valley of Africa in its forward and progressive move. Google is over there. More and more people are starting to wake up that the traditional images that we see of Africa are not the images that we see of you, we see of the room that you're in, we see of the people of Africa who are doing so many amazing things. And you're right, more and more African Americans are moving to Accra through the goodwill of its president, which I had the privilege of interviewing and spending some time with. And there is an open door to lock arms and to come together in a way that's been unprecedented. And we need to continue to explore that. And just because we're all Black doesn't mean we're not, that we're a monolith. We're very diverse, like any other place, both in Africa and throughout the diaspora. But that diversity does not have to limit us from having unity. And you have been one of the premier leaders in that, and I just want to honor you before you hop off and thank you for your leadership and thank you for your willingness to participate on some of the things that we're planning to have in the future that you and I have been talking about. Once it was hard to get Strive to talk to me about anything other than the Bible. So we would talk all the time. He would talk to me about the Bible. Then I messed up one day and started talking about AI, and he just went berserk. You know, I said, "Oh, I hit the spot right there." And so I don't want to talk to you as a bishop. I want to talk to you as an ambassador of the future, so that we can talk about God and His creativity, but also talk about that creativity being exemplified in humanity, and how do we draw from that humanity in a way that you have done and have been doing for years. And building, John Hope was on there talking about some of the work that you've done, and I didn't get a chance to brag that I was in your office, pray for your mother, walk the grounds, was at the Ecomet and at other places, and saw firsthand some of the work that you're doing and some of the young people that are taking the lead in the conversation. And thank you for being a trailblazer to the next generation. So we're really excited about that. I see John's jumped over. You want to say goodbye before he goes?
Yes, I want to thank you, Strive. I know you're in an airport somewhere in the world, and you did this. Our friend Michael Morgan that literally was trying to do this from an airplane. Now, that's rocket. Doing a video call from your airplane if he works it out. But I want to thank you, Strive, for doing this and stopping your world for this, honoring Dr. King's legacy, honoring Ambassador Andrew Young, of course, honoring Bishop Jakes, who is with Ambassador Young, two of our living icons in the world. Mayor Andre Dickens, you are a model, sir. Your friend, I was sitting here bragging with Mayor Paul Young. He was bragging on you. You two are both models for the country. What we're doing with you with child savings accounts, amazing. Every kindergarten kid, thanks to your leadership in Atlanta Public Schools, Bishop Jakes, has a Hope Child Savings Account. Statistics show that if you give a kid a child savings account in kindergarten, they're 25% more likely to go to college, Bishop. If you put money in that account, a couple $100, they're 75% more likely to graduate from college. Just that one act of connecting education with aspiration, that's just one of the many things that Mayor Dickens is doing. We're passionate, both him and I, about credit scores. We're passionate about community health. Atlanta really is a global model in the world. And thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mayor Dickens. Thank you, Bishop, for being, you don't walk on the water, but you know where the stones are. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much. I just want to give a shout out and invite all the entrepreneurs that might be listening at us. We're having our Good Soil Forum in Dallas, Texas, June 12th through the 14th, where we're going to be talking about this in much deeper detail as we begin to prepare people for the possibilities of what could be done through entrepreneurship. I was going to get into that a little deeper, but we're running short on time of what entrepreneurship and AI can do together to move us further and further along in our debate. And we've got everybody coming from Lorenzo, who founded Fear of God, to Oprah Winfrey, coming together to share experience. We're getting ready to have the biggest transfer of wealth that we have seen in the history of America, from the baby boomer generation to the next generation. But if we leave wealth without wisdom, then we're going to end up in devastation, like people who hit the lottery and 2 or 3 years later are broke. So I invite you to come and get the strategy to go along with the talent that you have. And thank you, John, for this opportunity to go this far in this conversation.
Honored. I think Mayor Young wants to say something to you, Bishop.
Bishop, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to all of the panelists, my brother Mayor in Atlanta. Good to see you. This has been an amazing conversation. Here in Memphis, innovation is, we like to say, part of our DNA. And we are constantly looking for more opportunities to elevate the people of our region. We want to take the strategies talked about today, the business plan that's been documented on paper, and we want to implement that for the people of our community to be able to elevate, such that it's a national example of how cities can come together and elevate for the people. And so, again, I just want to say thank you all for the time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to come to Memphis so we can talk a little more.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bishop, you'll be proud of this. The mayor said he's going to take the plan, download it, the business plan for Black America, download it, get it to all the churches.
Absolutely.
Get it to all the civil rights, the civic leaders here, and have them start having a conversation about this. And so to go from PhD to PhD 2. So he's already in operations mode, building just like you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for including the churches, because I think people underestimate the role that the church can play in moving and impacting the culture, not just in terms of voting, but in terms of having land masses, building mixed income housing, doing a lot of things, equipping people with literacy and training and that sort of thing. So thank you for not leaving the spiritual leaders out, so that we can have public-private partnerships that also include faith-based leaders to transform the way that they think, seeing as we gather more people every week on a weekly basis than any other institution. What we say to them has a lot to do with the outcomes that come in their life. So I'm gonna get out of the way. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
I'll see you again, Sarah.
Have an amazing day.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor, this is the least time I'm going to talk all day. I don't have to say a word. You know somebody's a bad brother when he shows up with a T-shirt on. When somebody shows up with nothing but a T-shirt on, you know he's a bad brother. Look, Harley Finkelstein is the president of Shopify. It is the second largest e-commerce platform in the world. Arguably the biggest when it comes to focusing on business and entrepreneurship. Harley is a partner and friend to my other partner and friend, Toby Lutke, who's the founder of Shopify. Along with Kaz and others there, they have stood up $130 million 10-year commitment to build Black businesses called 1MBB, 1 Million Black Business Initiative. It was stood up in 2020 after George Floyd's murder. I'm gonna let Harley get into this. He's gonna give literally the state of entrepreneurship and state of small business address. I literally am shut up and walk off the mic, off stage. He's gonna drop the mic. This guy can go for 5 or 10 minutes without taking a breath on small business and entrepreneurship, never repeat himself, and will put everybody into a state of a trance in his vision because it makes so much sense. I actually think he's part Black because he's so cool. And in December, Harley came to me and said, we want to double down. This is December. We want to do more. They committed another $60 million on top of the $130 million for $190 million over 10 years to build Black businesses. And of course, I know the answer why. Why would you want to do this in this environment? Aren't you concerned? And I'm going to just give you a little bit of the secret sauce here. He said, we're just trying to build a company. We just want more good shops. It's a market. It's a market. So we have 3% Black businesses. Why wouldn't we want 10% of Black businesses? Anybody who doesn't want that doesn't want our prosperity. The company. I love that answer. One of the smartest men in the world on entrepreneurship and small business is coming to you here for a master class. Welcome to the state of business and entrepreneurship, Harley Finkelstein.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, John. It is it's an honor to be here. I was listening to Mayor Dickens talk about turning people with desire into business owners and entrepreneurs. It's sort of like, Nike convinced the whole world that if you have a body, you can be an athlete. And I think what you and I are doing together with Operation Hope and 1MBB is we're convincing anyone that has ambition that they can be entrepreneurs. Strive's story is unbelievable. This idea that Africa is the home to the largest number of Black-owned businesses in the world, and it's the fastest rate of growth within China is wild. So I'm really grateful to be here. John is not only one of my friends, but he's also been a mentor to me and to Toby and to Shopify, and I'm just honored to be here. I want to start by talking a little bit about 3 stories that I think has shaped my journey with entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship didn't really just start with in me. It's sort of in my blood, like it is for a lot of people watching. Both my grandfathers were what I call forced entrepreneurs. And what I mean by that is there was nothing glamorous about their story. Entrepreneurship or starting a small business was just a means of survival. They were immigrants to this country. We're in Canada. Neither had a college education. Neither of them had any money whatsoever, and nobody would give them an opportunity. But yet they had families to provide for. And so my father's father was a refugee. He came to Canada from Hungary in 1956 after surviving the Holocaust. When he got here to Canada, he started a little egg stand at a local farmer's market called Le Capitaine. That stand still stands today. It's not too far from where I am now. My mother's father was in what we call the schmata business, the clothing business. The reason he was in the clothing business was low barriers to entry. He didn't have to have a lot of money to buy clothing for $1 and sell it for $2. And he did that selling clothing in the back of his car all over Montreal. And I have these vivid memories of riding around in his car while he had clothes piled in the back. I'm sure many of you have stories just like that. But for me, on a personal level, when I was 13 years old, the only thing in the world that I wanted to do and be was I wanted to be a DJ. But nobody would hire me. I looked like I was 8 years old. I didn't know how to DJ. And so my father told me that if no one will hire you, why don't you consider starting your own DJ company and hiring yourself? And he made me these business cards, these kind of, very unofficial, but for me, they felt real. These business cards that said Harley Finkelstein, DJ. And between the ages of 13 years old and 19 years old, I DJ'd over 500 parties and weddings and corporate events, you name it. And so entrepreneurship, like for my grandfathers, was once again this tool that I used to solve problems. But then I was 24 years old, and I met this brilliant programmer who you mentioned named Toby in a coffee shop in Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada. And Toby had moved to Canada a year or two earlier and wanted some snowboard. But he couldn't find any decent software to do it with. It was either ridiculously expensive to build an online store, or you had to sell it on a marketplace like eBay, which didn't really allow you to build your own independent business. So he sat down at a coffee shop and wrote this code, this piece of software, to sell these snowboards. And Toby quickly realized that the code that he had written was even more valuable than the snowboard business itself. And that's really how Shopify was born. And I was in law school at the time, and I needed to pay my tuition. I had to support my family. My dad wasn't in our life anymore, and I had 2 much younger sisters. My mom needed some help. And so I decided to become one of Shopify's first merchants in selling t-shirts online. And that really was my of what has now been a 2-decade journey in Shopify, from this idea in a coffee shop into a $100 billion company today. Now, if you sort of think about these stories, they seem very different. My grandfather selling eggs or selling schmutzes in the back of his car to building a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded software company. But something that was the same across all these stories, that at every single juncture, there were these role models involved. I had a role model. I had a visual proof that this thing called entrepreneurship was a viable path, that people like me could do something like that. And I realized that was the key to a lot of this. My father wasn't able to support me financially when I was 13. He didn't have any money. But because he thought I could be a DJ, because he gave me the confidence that I could be a DJ, I ended up starting a DJ company because he watched his father do it. And so if his son, me, wanted to start a business, it didn't sound that crazy. And what I've learned over helping millions of stores on Shopify, these great companies, is that knowing entrepreneurs, seeing entrepreneurs, it actually helps you believe that it's possible for you to do it as well. So 70 years ago, entrepreneurship allowed my grandparents to build a life in a new country around the world. It let them create opportunity when frankly, no one else was giving it to them. And 70 years later, this has never been more relevant. I think there's a lot of noise out there today, especially this week. The economy is somewhat unpredictable. The landscape is uncertain. And I don't think safety nets are always guaranteed. But yet in the middle of all of this, we are watching entrepreneurs right now absolutely thrive. This is the golden age of entrepreneurship. And last year alone, 875 million people, so 1 in 6 internet users on the planet, bought something from a Shopify merchant, from one of our entrepreneurs. And our merchants now represent about 12% of all commerce in the US alone. And every single day, I get to hear the story of someone else who's changed their life by building a business. And the reason for this is because, as I said, I think this is the golden age of entrepreneurship. The barriers are getting started right now, and the costs of failure have never been lower. And I think that economic downturns, times of economic uncertainty like we're dealing with right now, they're actually the most fertile grounds for these new ideas. When traditional employment opportunities decline, for innovation. And actually, this is my mission. I like stories and to create and help other people create their own entrepreneurial ventures. And so, there's this great quote by Marion Edelman, which is that you cannot be what you cannot see. And that's exactly what excites me about first becoming your friend and then becoming your partner, John, when creating this 1 Million Black Business Initiative, 1MBB. And so, as John mentioned, some of you, in partnership with Operation Hope, we're working to create 1 million Black-owned businesses. And to date, we're now just shy of 400,000. We give all the tools they need, but more importantly, we also have with inspiration. And I've got a chance through John to meet a lot of love telling is someone named who program in Operation Hope. And he founded this roller skate company called Roller Skate Detroit. And it was fascinating. I'll tell you very quickly what happened. During the pandemic, roller skating actually became this huge trend. And Keith saw this and jumped on it. And he started with training sessions. And with the support of 1MBB, Operation Hope, and Shopify, he graduated to opening up his own facility, which is incredibly successful today. And these are some of my favorite founder stories because Keith took something that he already loved, a lifelong passion, which was roller skating. He'd been doing it for 40 years and decided to create a business out of it. And when Keith spoke to the 1MBB team, he told us that this program was huge for him. And what he was most optimistic about is that people are going to see his story and emulate it and create their own versions of this entrepreneurial endeavor that he had done. And I think that's really the true power of what we're doing together, John. This 1MBB movement, this partnership between Shopify and Operation Hope shines a light on these incredible Black-owned businesses that I think have the power to act as a lightning rod, this conductor for thousands, if not millions, of future entrepreneurs. And so the best part is we're just getting started with this. For anyone watching, if you have an idea in the shower in the morning and you've had that idea a couple times, this is the best time in the history of the world to start a business. And with my friend John Hope Bryant and the incredible team of Operation Hope, we're making it easier than ever. And as John mentioned, we're so bullish on this, we've actually stepped up our investment over the next 10 years. And I know we're gonna hit our goal of 1 million Black-owned businesses, and I think we'll actually have many more created through this program. But it's been an honor and a pleasure, John, to be your friend, to learn from you. And now together, I think we're going to increase the surface area and entrepreneurs all over the world. So really excited about that.
Thank you, Harley. And I love what you said about increasing the surface area of entrepreneurship. When I first mentioned this narrative of changing mindset to you, I'm pretty sure you looked at me crazy. Because we're like, no, we're trying to get people to literally start businesses. Like, what's this mindset stuff? And I remember the conversation several years ago. I said, it's as important to me to get people into the mindset of learning how to fish than not just eating a fish, somebody giving them the fish, but learning how to fish, to get them the mindset that the glass is half full, not half empty, and I can do this. And if we can just get people to the mindset of I can do this, this is not too hard. And then in that pivot alone, which is a large part of why we're doing this today in honor of Dr. King on the day of his assassination, to prove that his life was not given in vain, to prove or to answer the question, where do we go from here? He was talking about what you're talking about, Harley. I mean, that's what he was pointing toward. You listen, if you read his last book, Where Do We Go From Here? he was telling everybody off. He was setting everybody straight. And he basically was saying, everybody knock it off. Like, knock off the silly stuff. Let's get focused on outcomes. And again, I love what you're saying about expanding the surface area. And do you now know, or can you now appreciate what I was saying years ago, Harley, about the power and the importance of what many of my white friends, frankly, take for granted because they grow up in households where this is a foregone conclusion.
And not just that, but then they see more entrepreneurs and they believe it's possible. The craziest part of what we're doing is not just that we're making the tools easy, but we're making this idea that I can be an entrepreneur something more accessible. And more than ever before, the cost of failure right now is the lowest it's ever been. What that means, if you try something and it doesn't work, it's okay, because the second or third thing you do, that may be your $1 million business. And then what happens, you create a flywheel. So John, we're at a 400,000, just shy of 400,000 now. We're going to hit our 1 million goal for sure. But more importantly, through that flywheel, we will create tens of millions of new businesses. And it's a great honor to be your friend and your partner in this endeavor.
Thank you so much. Please give everybody at Shopify my best and my thanks. You've been great. The mayor wants to partner with you, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor, we're in. Let us know how we can be helpful.
Absolutely. We'll be reaching out.
Okay.
Love you, man. Peace.
Love you too.
The baller himself is on the screen. That's Charlemagne, my God. That's my man. I assume on this one I can just shut up and do nothing.
I think you can. I can shut up too.
No, you're the moderator. I do want to say, in a serious note, Charlemagne doesn't sleep. Like, people sleep on Charlemagne. Like, they think, oh, he's funny and he's this, he's entertaining. This brother is like a prophet. This guy is smart, wicked smart. He owns a publishing imprint with a book. They offered him a book deal, Mayor. He's like, no, I don't want the money. Right. I don't want an advance. What I want is a book imprint with a mainstream book publisher, so I can give voice to other brilliant minds who. What's that girl's name? Charlemagne, the young lady. She's so smart. Tamika Mallory. She's so smart. He gave her a book deal. I mean, he empowered himself to create a platform. Again, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to create economic plumbing for the underserved. He just by creating a publishing platform, he's creating plumbing, a plug-and-play system. He did the same thing with Breakfast Club. Look at all the people he's given opportunity to be host, co-host, podcast network, Black Effect Network, which he owns 51% of or more, along with partnership with iHeart. He's got a media company that he just started. He's got a fast food restaurant that he started in his hometown. Is it Monk's?
Monk's Corner, yes, sir.
North Carolina. This is a bad brother, and he will call me on a Saturday or a Sunday and prick me on something, like, push me on something. I'm trying to relax, and he wants to talk about the future of us, and he's the reason that I wrote the first business plan for America, which I then went on Breakfast Club to talk about. That was over a year ago, and he's the reason that I really began to evolve my philosophy on these things, and thank you for pushing me. Charlemagne, I'm honored to know you.
Man, no, the feeling is mutual. I'm just honored to be able to, tap into you, as a mentor and just, somebody who has done this for a long time and is, economically empowered so many of us, whether folks know it or not. So, I just love to be able to call you on a Saturday to get that information, my brother.
My deep honor. One of these days, people are going to recognize that you are much more than the top radio personality in the country. But I know you don't.
I don't care if they do or not.
I know. I was just about to say that. I know you don't care.
Like I'm about that action. I'd rather stay low and keep firing. They always say if you build in silence, people can't stop what you're doing. So I don't have any. I don't care what people think about me in any way, shape, or form. I let the results speak.
Well, with that said, I guess John shut up. So now we can get to it. Charlemagne, it's a privilege, man, to be able to rap with you on this Friday and a very important topic, Dream Forward, in this panel, redefining wealth, achieving economic freedom and self-determination. I don't think there's a better individual between us that, represents that very well. I followed your career very closely, being from North Philadelphia myself, and so very familiar with your radio history. And here you are now, as John said, one of the top radio personalities, but not only that, but a cultural voice, right, within Black America, within America, period. You know, you go around on social media, you see your comments, you see how much you engaged. I've learned a lot from you in the early days of Twitter, so it's definitely a privilege to be able to have this important conversation with you right now.
Thank you, Jabari. I appreciate that.
Hey, man, listen, thank you. And listen, I want to open this conversation up, man, and the way I would like to run my panels is that it's more engaging. I can't see who all is watching, so it's like a conversation between me and you, but you know, when I talk about economic empowerment all the time, and I'm reporting on it, you know, there's various definitions of it, but I like to ask you and start this panel off just with that. When you hear that phrase, economic empowerment, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
For me, economic empowerment just means that, you know, you have a skill set, you've tapped into your skill set, and you found ways to, you know, profit off of your skill set, and not just profit off your skill set as an individual. You know, that skill set has enabled you to build something that other people can profit off as well. You know, one of my favorite mottos is, you know, whatever you build only benefits you, then it's not big enough. You know, I think it's one thing to empower yourself as an individual, but it's another, you know, to have a skill set or have some type of, you know, talent, or just to build something that helps, you know, other people as well. So that's what economic empowerment means to me. You know, something that helps you as an individual, you know, create something not just for yourself but for others.
Yeah. Well, listen, this was supposed to be 2 or 3 other people on this thing, but it turned into a fireside chat between us. So again, man, so much to cover and so little time. But you know, listen, I think it's fair to say that you have a nice income. You made a nice bit of money, and I don't think we're living that forward.
God is good. You know, my mom told me a long time ago that was very freeing for me. You know, my mom told me that, you know, you've accomplished. You know, my mom was a school teacher from Moncks Corner, you know, South Carolina, and you know, my father was in the construction. You know, and you know, he always had a hustle, whether it was a fish market in Moncks Corner or something. But my mom told me that, you know, you've accomplished more than everybody in the family had, but just be happy to be making a living.
Absolutely.
That's how I always carry it. Like, you know, God is good. I'm just happy to be making a living.
Absolutely, man. And within that living, when we look at the actual, you know, title of this particular panel, redefining wealth, right? When did you redefine what wealth meant to you? At what point in your career? I mean, I think we all, you know, especially coming from certain backgrounds, you know, financial empowerment, financial literacy is still it's a stranger to us. You know, I was talking about this with John O'Brien not too long ago, and so we may be behind the 8 ball a little bit, but when did you redefine your wealth? When did it kind of really start to make sense in a different way?
When I started to realize that, you know, wealth in a lot of ways is subjective. You know, like, you know, there's people that are living in South Carolina right now who might be making $50,000, $60,000 a year, but you know, they got a roof over their head, they got food on their table, and they're happy. You know, they're able to, you know, take a vacation once in a while. They may have a couple of dollars to put into the stock market, but more important, they might have, you know, just enough to make sure that they're, you know, they have childcare, or, you know, just to be able to afford the type of car, you know, that can get them from A to B, but the main thing is that they're happy. So, you know, for me, you know, that's what wealth really means to me. You know, you're doing what it is that you love to do, or whatever you're doing, you're just happy doing it. That's why I always even tell people that success is subjective. Like, what's success to you may not be success, you know, to another individual. For me, you know, it's just, I feel good just waking up in the morning. You know, I feel good being able to wake up in the morning, say my prayers, read my daily affirmations, do my meditation, you know, do my therapy, you know, once a week, and just have a peace of mind. That's happiness to me. So when we talk, you know, when we have these conversations about wealth, you know, we can't just keep them in the financial aspect of the conversation, because I know a lot of financially wealthy people who are not happy in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, you know, coming from the world, we have to cover money all the time. You look around certain rooms like, hey, you have all of this and you're still not happy. Well, what the hell is wealth? when we talk to a lot of people, celebrities, politicians and all of that. And, John told us to keep politics out of it, so we're not going to go down that road. But are there any misconceptions that you always hear when it comes down to wealth building? Because, again, we're in this age now, and I understand the equity conversation. I think maybe that's going a little too far, and people lost track of what that is. We'll get to that in a minute. But what misconceptions do you often hear that maybe isn't talked about enough when it comes down to wealth building, keeping in mind the mentality and the mental part of it?
I think the biggest, problem with wealth conversations is that, maybe a lot of us in our culture, we take business advice from people who ain't got no business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out here, telling folks, there's a lot of people out here making money by telling folks how to make money, but the people they talking to not making any money. Right? So it's just like, I always tell John, one of the reasons I like him is because he actually has a business. And I think that's the main thing we have to do when we're listening to people have these conversations. Like, okay, it's one thing to talk, but what do you actually do? What is your actual business? Can you point to your staff? Can you point to your board? Can you point to how much you paid in taxes for your business last year? Like, there's a lot of different, things that go with running a business. And a lot of these so-called gurus out here just spreading a whole lot of misinformation, but they don't have any foundation to stand on. So the first thing I would tell anyone when they're listening to somebody talk financials, see how that person actually makes their money and see how long they have been making money doing what it is that they're doing. If they're making money, if their hustle is making money telling you how to make money and you're not making no money, that's probably not somebody you should be talking to.
Yeah, and that's a perfect, segue, because later on, but I'll get to it right now, I was going to ask you, I think we're getting out of this conversation that within our culture that needs to be canceled comes down to that economic empowerment. Like, what needs to be canceled for us to move forward? I was looking at a Wall Street Journal piece, and I believe it was about $70 trillion, right, in wealth transfer that's happening right now until 2042, right? And so when you think about the next big wealth transfer post-2022, post-2042, what needs to be canceled within this culture right now, in our culture, so that way we can be a part of that economic empowerment, a part of that economic balance?
What needs to be canceled is listening to people who don't have any business. Listen to people listen to people who are actually doing things, who have already, made money in the past. They built businesses in the present, and they're looking towards the future. Like, there's plenty of people that you can talk to right now that can tell you exactly, where things are going as far as, the economy is concerned. We can tell you exactly where things are going as far as business is concerned. But, we got to be willing to listen. And you know what? That's the problem now is everybody is an expert. So you can have somebody come on a platform like the Breakfast Club, like whether it's a John O'Brien or David John or any of these people who have already done it, and they can tell you how they've done it, and they can tell you where things are going. But then you have a bunch of people who've never done anything, all in the comments telling them that they lie, they wrong, they know what they talking about. Why would I listen to those people who never built anything opposed to listening to people who actually built something? Like right now, this is a fantastic event, the Dream Forward event, a new business plan for America. This is John continuously doing something. He's been doing something for years with Operation Hope, but now today is another day where he's continuously doing something. Why wouldn't I listen to an individual like that? Like, all we got to do is pay attention to the people who, already walked the path. That's it.
Yeah. According to Nielsen, Charlamagne, man, I always bring this stat up, and I was just talking about it with John at the NASDAQ. We're talking, but according to Nielsen, by next year, Black America's spending power will reach 2.1 trillion, right? Let that sink in. 2.1 trillion. That is bigger than the GDP of Mexico, tied with the GDP of Canada, our two trading partners here in North America. When you think about that figure, in 2026, that our spending power of Black America will be 2.1 trillion. What comes to mind?
The same thing that's, come to my mind forever. When I first read Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when you study what, Marcus Garvey was doing, when you think about,
just the whole do for self model. You know, we've been talking about unity and group operation forever. Black people have been talking about, you know, pooling their resources forever. Black people have been talking about, you know, supporting each other and, you know, spending with each other forever. So when you see all of that money that we're spending making other people rich, it's like, yo, why don't we support our own? You know, we don't need anybody else. Like, we are absolutely positively enough.
Yeah, quite fast, man. You know, you're from South Carolina. You know, again, you spent time in Philly, up here in New York, as am I. But a lot of times we miss what's going on in rural America. I live what one might consider in rural America right now, in part of Jersey. I've been down to Tulsa. I've seen the food deserts. I've seen the bank deserts. When it comes to economic empowerment, we